Well, hello again, and welcome to the Heart of the Witch's Path podcast. I'm your co host, Helen.
And I'm Cathy.
This is episode 205 of the podcast. And today. I always do a little pause with that now. Today we wanted to discuss ritual wear.
And I want to apologize ahead of time because we've done some video blogs recording prior to this, and I've still got a cold. So if my voice starts to go or if I'm coughing, I apologize.
Right. It's okay. She's sounding 1,000% better than she did a week ago.
Well, I can talk.
Well, you can talk and not sound like a croaking frog.
See, there was an improvement too over the not talking.
Exactly.
So yeah, much better.
Definitely. So what we thought we would do in this episode is talk to you about different types of ritual wear, some that we use and some that we might not necessarily use.
Right.
And
this is just to give you an overview of things that are available or options that you could do. And you could easily do web searches to see examples of what we're going for here.
Right. But before we get into the actual meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the episode, we should probably cover
the correspondence of the week.
Wow. So, this episode, we decided that we would talk about Bay.
Yes, because we've recently used it in a Sabbath ritual. So Bay was a really good idea for us to cover since it was fresh in our minds.
Exactly. So Bay happens to be one of the plants that I've developed an attitude? No, not an attitude.
Does it have an attitude with you?
No, it's actually very good or very kind and helpful. I've developed a relationship with Bay in recent years, and it's an interesting plant, and it's one that I actually have alive in my home.
Good.
Because I developed a black thumb that I'm trying to turn green again. But I bought a Bay a couple of years ago when I started doing some container herb gardening, and it won't weather a Michigan winter. So I've brought it into the house for the last 2 winters, and that Bay plant has tripled in size.
Wow.
I mean, it started off about 6 or 7 inches tall, and it's now a good 1.5 feet.
So have you plucked it and dried?
There are some that I have plucked, yes, and I meant to kind of bring them to the Sabbath ritual for us to use, and I forgot to grab them. But it is a plant that I converse with because when it's in the house for the winter, it sits right next to the kitchen sink. And so I have conversations with him. He tells me when he's ready to be watered during the winter, and he's definitely a male energy, which is normal.
What is the correspondence then for Bay?
Well, Bay can be used for protection.
Yes.
It can also be used for removing curses and for exorcisms. It's also good for helping to develop psychic ability. I've used it a lot for protection. So.
And what we used it for in ritual is something that you can do at home, is to take a dried bay leaf and write something that you want to develop or something you need, and you can burn it, or in this instance, we're going to bury it.
Right. And it's actually a craft idea that I got from someone who subscribes to the YouTube channel.
Oh.
And I don't remember the username that gave me the suggestion. So you know who you are. And so I want to say thank you for the suggestion. And I took it and
ran with it.
So thank you for that. So that would be our time with our correspondence of the week.
Sorry for that delay. My phone locked, and I had to get back where we were. So,
all right.
Now on to ritual clothing.
Ritual wear, as we
And,
call it.
you know, hardly anything is so diverse and flexible as ritual wear.
Right. Definitely.
There's
and
so many things you can do.
And the funny thing is, for years, we went without anything specific.
Right. We did.
So that, I mean, that's kind of fun. And how long have we been practicing together?
98, I think.
We're going on 20 years. So.
Well, it's 18 this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're one of the oldest friends I have.
I'm one of the longest friends you have.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I'm not that
All
old.
right.
I refuse.
Okay, so thoughts on ritual clothing. I did some looking around to see what some other folks are doing, because if you follow the blog, I did a blog post, I think it's been about a year ago, I think, when we finished
our
ritual garb.
With pictures.
We like I said, for the longest time we didn't have ritual outfits.
Right.
But we decided,
part of the reason for that is that only some of us sew.
Right.
Yeah.
We decided about 5 years ago, honestly, that we wanted to do ritual outfits.
I think it was longer.
But then we tossed around what we wanted to do, and we just couldn't come up with.
I think we decided on 3 or 4 different styles.
Right.
And then, you know, material's expensive and it's time consuming to make them. And so we just never ended up making any ritual garb until about a year ago.
Right. And we decided that what we would do is we would go with a design that was really simple, because we wanted something that we could wear
hot and cold.
Exactly. So we ended up coming up with a long dress style.
Yeah, we actually took a chemise pattern and cut the sleeves off of it.
Right. So it's a sleeveless, it's a tank style dress that is large enough that in the wintertime we can wear something underneath it.
Warm and bulky.
Right. And we've talked about you know, maybe adding some light cloak or coat or something of that matter that we could wear over it. But that's kind of still a loose idea. So
well, we tend to, when in the cold weather, we tend to do ritual inside.
Right.
So it's not really necessary that we need cloaks or coats.
Exactly. So I mean, you'd be fine with wearing, you know, a long sleeve shirt underneath.
Right.
So that's kind of what we do. That's the actual fabric-y part of our.
And we chose to go sleeveless because of fire.
Right.
Right.
Which we'll kind of get into.
Yeah, which the usual standard robes that you wear for ritual has long sleeves.
Right. Right. So let's talk a little bit on some thoughts on ritual clothing, because I think that we have an interesting perspective, because we come from a background where we didn't have it for the longest time, and then now we do.
Yeah. So why do you need it?
So why have ritual clothing?
Well, ritual clothing, like any ritual tool, helps you get into the mindset, the magical mindset for ritual.
Right. And there are some people who consider clothing a ritual tool.
Right.
For that reason.
Right.
So I thought that was, I find validity.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be clothes. It can be anything. It can be a ring that you wear. It can be, we made Sabbath necklaces so that we wear those on the Sabbaths. It can be anything that brings you into that spiritual awareness for ritual, whether it be a Sabbath, Esbat, or spell.
Right. Now, so it puts you into a different state of awareness.
Right.
When you don this clothing.
Oh, I'm wearing these clothes. It's time to do magic.
Exactly. Now, some people dedicate clothing for the explicit purpose of ritual
Which
wear.
Is why we made our ritual garb. We only use it during ritual, although we could wear it for run.
Yeah, we probably could, but I wouldn't.
I wouldn't. No, we have run clothes, but we could.
Right. But there are some people that do dedicate clothing. And so that's something that, you know, if you're looking into.
So when you say dedicate, are you saying, okay, I'm only going to wear this then? Or are you saying I am going to cleanse this and actually dedicate it as a tool?
Yes.
So both.
Right.
Right.
I mean, there are some folks that, as witches, we tend to talk about our witchy wardrobe as like the flowing skirts and tunicky type things and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
all those clothes I don't have.
Right. There are some people that have clothing like that that they identify as wearing it for ritual purposes,
Right.
but they'll also wear it to the grocery store.
Right.
Or whatever. But then there are some people that say, okay, this outfit, whether it be a formal robe or something long or whatever.
Or this is a pretty skirt with flowers on it.
Exactly.
I'm only going to wear it for ritual.
Right. So there are some people that say this is it.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some searching on YouTube just to see what some other folks did. And there was a gentleman that talked about he had a t-shirt, a specific t-shirt that he purchased. I want to say he might have purchased it in Salem or something along those lines. And so it was a t-shirt with a logo on it, but he wore that for rituals.
Right.
Didn't wear it for anything else.
Right.
And so that, I mean, that can be said for, clothing. It can be said
Right.
for,
so the point is, you don't have to make a ritual robe if you can't sew, if you can't afford the material, if you can't make it, you can't buy it. You can use any mundane clothing and, pick up a pink t-shirt at, Meyer or something and say, I'm only going to wear this for ritual.
Right.
It can be anything that is dedicated solely for ritual.
Right. And or not. But
Or
I mean,
not.
if you feel that pull, then by all means. It
Right.
doesn't have to be something that looks like it's come out of
a pyramid catalog.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be anything that doesn't speak to you.
Right.
I think that there's a couple of things that are important, though, when it comes to talking about what you wear for ritual.
Right. There are some very important things you need to keep in mind. One of them being
loose clothing.
Yes, because you don't want to be uncomfortable when you're making magic.
Right. Especially because if you do any meditation or
bending or moving.
Right. Moving around, setting up things, stuff like that. You want to be comfortable.
Right.
And, we can do some weird.
For example, at our Sabbath ritual this last weekend, I wore yoga pants underneath my ritual garb.
Oh, always.
Yeah. You want to be comfortable because how can you make magic if you're not comfortable?
Exactly. So something else to kind of keep in mind when it comes to clothing specifically. I know that we all like to get gothic.
Drapey sleeves and the
long skirts,
the tassels.
Right. While it's pretty and all, please be careful.
Fire.
Because long sleeves and fire do not always go well together. Or they might go too well together. And that can also be said, another person's video that I watched today, they stressed, be careful of your long, pretty hair.
Oh, right.
To not fling it about you when you've got lit candles.
Because we've all seen those wedding videos where the hair goes off.
Boom!
Yes. And there's so many more candles when you're talking about Wicca, pagan, witch rituals.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. So those are just some thoughts to keep in mind with, what does ritual clothing mean to you? Do I want to have ritual clothing?
Right. Color is also something, because if you're gonna wear white, you don't want to be kneeling outside in the grass.
Right.
I say as I have white ritual garb.
Yeah, me too. How did?
All
right.
I'm not sure.
We'll cover that.
We'll move on. Let's move on. Okay.
So let's talk about the different possible items that could be considered ritual wear, because it's not necessarily just clothing.
Right.
So you have your robes. Some people do like a traditional robe that might belt close.
And there's plenty of patterns out there to make it really easy. You lay down on a piece of material.
Right.
You cut out where your arms go. You sew it together, and look, you're done.
And I'm talking about like a Gandalf type robe, something that closes up the front. It might just slide shut like a bathrobe.
Hogwarts robe.
Right. Yeah. Something along those lines. That's what we're talking about. Something with sleeves.
Right. Generally long, usually dark.
Right. May or may not have a hood. Doesn't matter. That's what we're talking about.
Right.
Another thing is like what we have.
Right. Which is a modified dress.
Right.
You
In
could do a
any
tunic
length,
too.
right? In any length. We just happened to we wanted long,
We like long and flowing things.
right? Because we happen to we use we'll talk about we use cords, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yep.
But we liked that look,
Right.
as a group,
Right. So we went long.
right? And then another like actual article of clothing would be like a cloak. Now, this is something that
Right.
drapes over your shoulders.
Right, that hooks at your neck and goes behind your back, doesn't
Right.
necessarily have sleeves, may or may not have a hood.
Right, might have a hand pouch,
Right.
or
The holes.
the hand holes. There we
Yep,
go.
yep.
Or a shawl, even.
Right.
That
which
could be like a
just
shorter.
drapes over your shoulder.
Right.
I mean, we have shawls that we use specifically for our in bulk ritual.
Mm-hmm. Right,
Right.
right. We use those for that. So those are kind of like clothing items that could be and
that doesn't count if you wanna do the T-shirt with the logo on it.
Right. These are a little bit more traditionally type stuff here.
Now, can I talk here about if you're going with regular clothes, you can do colors for the sabbats. I know that's you've got it down there. Okay, we'll talk about it later then.
Let's talk about it then.
Okay.
So if you want to, I feel like I'm like introducing everything. So if you want
Okay,
to.
so other possible ritual wear items is a diadem or crown. Some traditions, for example, the Temple of Witchcraft mystery school, if you reach the 5th degree, you wear a diadem. Mm-hmm. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. Other traditions may not have that stipulation.
I think a lot of times a diadem kind of goes hand in hand with like a high priest or a high priestess status.
It can. It doesn't have to. If you feel like you want to wear a pretty diadem, by all means, wear one. Mm-hmm. A crown for a man. That could also include things like a wreath of flowers in your hair.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So another item would be a stole.
Right, and traditionally that is a piece of fabric that is sewn to, it's a strip, and you wear it around your neck, and it hangs down the front of you, and
you'll see that in some Christian traditions.
I was thinking the Catholic priests use those.
Episcopalians.
Yeah, they didn't use them in my Baptist church, but okay. But yeah, you do see it in traditions. The more formal Christian traditions, but a lot of the pagan traditions use it as well. And generally, it's a specific color for the tradition, and a lot of times they will have oh God, the word's gone.
Patches.
Thank you. Patches that can represent either the degree that you have or the coven that you belong to, or things of that nature.
Right. Another
while we're talking about stoles, we need to talk about our stoles.
Right. So. I've done a blog post about my personal stole. And so we use beaded stoles with 3 strands that have different meaning. The first, it represents the god and goddess, and on the ends can have your patron beads to represent your patron god and goddess. God and or goddess, I guess I should say.
Yeah, because not everybody has both. And it's fine if you don't have both.
Right. The second strand tells your history.
Your craft history.
Right. Your craft history. And then the third strand is more about things that are specific to you.
Personal.
Right. I have like I have a section for my Christian upbringing. I have a section for my Native American spiritual.
Is that on your is that on your craft history, or
no?
That's
on my personal history. My craft history is just different groups that I've studied with, the craft wise.
And I have on my personal one, I have stones that represent my grandchildren, represent my husband, because they make us who we are today. Right. So that is an alternate stole that you can make, and there's all kinds of ideas. You can come up with anything.
Right. I have a whole long blog post with pictures that I will, I'll put a link to that if you want to know more. I'm really proud of those.
Yes.
I really,
Yes.
really love our stoles.
I do too. Although they're
So
kind of heavy and a little cold sometimes, but I really like them. I think that
yeah.
they've really fulfilled the purpose that
hmm
we intended for them to
hmm
do.
And whenever I do any kind of ritual, I will put that on.
Hmm.
So when I perform weddings, I think the couple of funerals
Hmm.
that I've officiated, I usually wear those.
Right.
So
So those are stoles.
another ritual garment item might be sandals. That's oh, I skipped one. We'll come
Okay,
back.
well, do this. Do the sandals, and
So
I'll.
sandals are kind of used in high magic, as a ritual uh, item to wear. And I won't go into the whys and wherefores here. They just are.
So I think we can include any kind of footwear in this,
Or
because
lack of footwear.
or lack of footwear, because you could have a pair of shit kicker boots that you think are cool to wear in ritual, and it helps you get into that magical
Right.
mindset.
Right.
And that's the point of all of this stuff, is to get you in that magical mindset. So
Mhm.
if you have a pair of shit kicker boots that get you in a magical mindset,
Do
wear
it.
them. Do it. You got
Um,
4-inch screw me boots that makes you feel that way, wear them.
right. So the one I skipped was cords.
Right. And cords are generally used to denote rank. Well, rank. Okay.
Degrees.
Degree. They can also, we have in our coven, we have a color cord that denotes acceptance into the coven, and then different colors for the different degrees. And other traditions also follow that as well, as far as for the degrees.
And these are something that you would wear belted around your waist.
Right.
Over robes.
Right.
How's that?
Very good.
Another item might be something like a blindfold or a hood or a cowl. These are items that could be used during journeying or during initiations. So that's why we wanted to include them in this list.
Right. Something else that's fun with ritual items can be jewelry, like rings, necklaces, anklets, bracelets. I have a couple of anklets that have bells on them that we use for our Astara ritual. Noisemakers are always good in ritual. I have rings that I wear all the time that help me keep my magical mindset. We have
My pentacles.
right. We have our coven necklace.
We have our coven necklace.
We have Sabbath necklaces that we use. So anything that helps you get into that magical mindset.
Right. And then the next thing would be like a head wrap or a hat. Another person that I was kind of watching, they talked about that there was a head wrap that she would put on, and she would actually, it would help to put her into the magical mindset.
Right. And it would depend on what path you're following too, as far as some would require that more than others, I would think.
Right. Yeah. It might. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure what the head wrap was that she had. But I thought, well, that's valid. So
Right.
I'll go ahead and include it.
And again, if it helps get you in that magical mindset, wear it.
Do it.
Yeah. So the last option in this particular category is, if you want to try to do historical garb, go for it. If you follow the Roman or Greek pantheon, you can wear something Hellenistic. If you follow Egyptian, you can dress as an Egyptian. If you want to go with the Renaissance garb, go with that. If you do Native American, the Native American garb, that would be great. Again, it's whatever gets you in that magical mindset.
Right. And some are more elaborate than others.
Right.
And, you've got to, if that's what does it for you, then that's what does it for you. And just, you'll learn your limitations as you go along with it.
Right.
So
it's what you can afford and what you can make.
Right.
And
what you can find.
And what you can find. and what speaks to you.
Right. Now.
Oh, here's a big option.
Another option.
Not very many people do this.
Right. Another option for ritual wear would be to not wear anything at all.
Which is called skyclad.
Skyclad. Yeah, so this is not something that we do as a coven
No.
because my dangly bits are my own and y'all don't need to see them.
No, we don't.
But I mean,
But there are covens that do practice skyclad, and there are solitaires that practice skyclad.
and that's cool.
And even if you don't practice as a rule skyclad, there are some rituals or meditations that can be done skyclad.
Right. And it's nothing that I've ever been compelled to do, so I don't think I've ever done anything.
I think that the book that we're reading, is it The Body Sacred?
Yeah.
That has a ritual or a meditation that she wants you to do skyclad. But that's all talking about body image and trying to better your own image of your body.
Right.
So that's very specific for that. But that's not something we would ever do as a coven.
Right. Yeah, that's all.
No matter
on your own.
how often Joy begs.
Right. Right. So there's some alternate ideas that we thought that we would throw out there too. I remember a couple of years ago, Ellen Dugan talking about the fact that a coven she belonged with, they didn't do any kind of like robes or anything like that. They just had a standing rule of dress black.
Right, which I really liked that idea, but
Right.
we decided to go an alternate route. And that's where anything that you want to wear, as long as it's black.
Right, and as long as it's like dressy clothes.
Right.
And so that's kind of a nice way too, because a nice way to take things, because you know you could, and it doesn't necessarily have to be black. Like if you have a coven that happened to be dedicated to like a water goddess or something like that, then you could go with like blue clothing, and that's kind of where we start to get into like the specific colors.
Right.
You know,
something else, color, which I was kind of referring to earlier, is some sabbats have colors that are associated with them. So like in the spring, you would wear spring colors. In the summer, you might wear yellow for the sun, or you might wear green for the grass.
Right. And some people then, like if you went with the cloth stole, that you weren't necessarily part of a tradition, then you could maybe have different stoles for the different sabbats.
Right.
Like we have our sabbat necklaces, you could have a sabbat stole, and maybe if you're like uber talented or have a machine to do so, then maybe you could applique or have embroidery.
Right.
You know, like a litha stole could be yellow in color and have like bright orange suns on it. Or something like that.
You're only really limited by your imagination and your bank account.
Exactly. Right.
Really.
Right. And then another idea that someone spoke of too was that they used to wear chakra colors as part of ritual wear.
Right. That's
so that might be that might be a fun thing to construct.
And it wouldn't necessarily have to be your entire clothing either. You could go chakra colors for your jewelry.
Right.
You could have a necklace that has all of the chakra colors. You could have a bracelet that has
again a stole.
A stole. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you could do anything like that.
Right.
Your imagination.
Right. And I know, people who do have like traditional robes, black is a very popular color, do a black set of robes, maybe a white set of robes, what have you. You might even have a coven where you have robes that are the color of your birth element.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think we actually talked about that.
We did talk about that.
To have a style of dress. And then if, like as an Aries, mine would be red. Yours as an Earth would be green. Right. I think we did toss around that idea.
And then we might have decided on it one time.
Right.
But, regardless.
Right.
We didn't go that route.
Right. So, and then the last thing that we thought that we'd talk about is some people might not consider it part of ritual wear.
It's kind of part of preparing for ritual.
Right. But we thought we'd go ahead and throw it out there as well, because it's part of that altering the mindset.
Exactly.
And that's ritual bathing.
Right.
I need a new ritual bar of soap. I need to craft something.
Well, put it on the list for Crafty Craft Day.
Right. Well, I'd like to do it before Crafty Craft Day, however. But for me, ritual bathing, I usually have a bar of soap that its only purpose is I use it the day of ritual and bathe myself, and I think about what that upcoming ritual is going to be about.
Right.
And kind of start that mental
And
preparation.
cleansing and preparing and everything. Yeah, it's
Right.
and it doesn't have to be something you use in a shower. It can be simple as washing your hands prior to ritual. Yeah.
Sorry, I was taking a drink.
Yeah,
We've talked a lot.
We have.
Right. So there's some ideas that we have as far as ritual wear.
Right. And if we've missed something, which I think we were pretty comprehensive,
Right.
but if we have missed something, please let us know.
Right. And we'd like to know what you use.
And if you know of a good YouTube video or maybe a blog post that talks about ritual wear, link it for us in the comments. And that way we can, refer to it and
right.
maybe revisit this
right.
at some point.
It's always good to know what other folks are doing.
Absolutely.
Just if for no other reason than for knowledge.
Right.
So
knowledge is good.
Knowledge is good. It broadens your mind.
So if you haven't already, please subscribe.
Right. And if you learned something from this video, please give us a thumbs up. And until next time, thanks for walking the path for a little while with us. And until we see you again, blessed be.
Blessed be.